I'm talking to Professor Patrick McHaffie about the GPS and GIS applications for basically social justice issues, which is
Hmm.
pretty fantastic. Now, we're talking about this program in Kenya and you are partnering with or assisting uh, the the green
Greenbelt movement.
the Greenbelt
And
movement.
if you want to find out more about this
I
organization, you
do.
can find them at greenbeltmovement.org. They are a uh, world known grassroots environmental organization. Very prominent among these organizations. They're participating in the Copenhagen talks on climate change
That's pretty prestigious, yeah.
as an NGO. But I think that the idea that we're assisting them is the correct way to think of this, because this is something that they do. They do this kind of mapping. They do it with the technologies that we're using. They use GPS
Can you
technologies. They
explain
use
sort of
GIS.
for us how that would work?
Well, the areas that we're working in are areas that have been deforested in in national forests, largely for by people who are cutting it for firewood or clearing areas to grow ganja, perhaps,
What about
or
cattle? No,
you
not so
don't
much in
see you don't
Kenya.
see many cattle there. I mean, the small farmers will have a few animals, but you don't see big herds of cattle, and there's certainly not a large component of sort of agribusiness or commercial cattle farming for McDonald's or something like that. Most of the animals that you see are goats, quite
So it's not like
frankly.
the Amazon, that not that kind of issue.
No, it's not. It's not anything like that, as I understand the Amazon. But what they do is they go into the forest, they collect seeds that are not viable, and then they have tree nurseries where they grow the seeds in the tree nurseries. Our students will be working in the tree nurseries also. They grow the seeds into saplings for 3 or 4 years, then they take them and they plant them in areas that have been deforested. So the reason they map is they do it for a site planning purpose, so that they know how to plant and what trees to plant on a particular site that has been cut and deforested, and also as a way of monitoring the success of trees that they've planted. So there are two different approaches to mapping that they've taken, and we're simply saying, okay, you tell us the approach that you want us to take, and we're going to take that approach, and we're going to follow the methods that you use to do mapping that's going to assist you
So
in your
basically,
in
the
your
students
work.
that get involved in this program, they're going to get to go to Kenya and
Hmm.
learn at least about this one particular application.
Yes.
Now, what are some other? Are there any other green or social justice type other than that we've already talked about community mapping and
Well, there are a lot of things that we're involved with. We do work on also here in Chicagoland on sprawl. And sprawl is
sprawl?
a
It's a
so
nasty word,
yeah, well it
but we're
is,
all about
and
sprawl here.
pretty much. I mean, that's
That's the
what makes the
Chicago
city. That's
way.
what makes the city run, gobbling up farmland on the
Right.
edge of the city, and we've been sort of monitoring this and documenting it, mainly using remote sensing,
And
satellite image processing over the last 25 or 30 years on the city's edge, and so
so remote
it's a
sensing, you're getting away from it. What is remote? I mean, how does that work? Is that just pictures from satellites, basically?
yes.
Okay.
So and everybody I think has become somewhat familiar with remote sensing through applications like Google Earth, which is a kind of a big
Browser.
yeah, a big remote sensing candy store. It's like you can
It
look at
is.
satellite images from all around the world, and they're put in a framework by Google in this browser that allows you to put your own content into and do things. Everyone can become a mapper. Everyone can become a publisher. And if you scratch a little bit at Google Earth, you'll find that you too can become a mapper and a publisher. And there's a huge community, really, of people who are involved in mapping, who do mapping now.
Now, is it just
That has
community mapping
grown.
they're involved in, or is it beyond that?
Well, I mean, community mapping is a squishy kind of term, but I'd like to think that community mapping is mapping by a non-professional who lives in a community, and they're mapping their own world. So they're in the map and they're mapping the area that they live in, something about it that's of interest to them. So I think community mapping is something that ultimately There's actually a thing called Wikimapia. I don't know if anybody's seen.
Wikimapia?
Yeah, Wikimapia, that is kind of this monster community mapping site where just about anybody can go on to a website and publish their own information without even using the relatively simple tools that are incorporated in Google Earth and Google Maps for creating content.
Well, this really is a fascinating area, and I love this show because I get to find out about things like this that I knew nothing about. Except for obviously we all know about cell phones and car GPS systems, but I didn't know all this other stuff was going on. At least not at the level that we're talking about, with the grassroots level, which is fantastic. You did mention that this is not just going on at DePaul, but there are also programs at.
There is a program here. There is certainly a laboratory here at Loyola. David Treering is the.
Treering, I love that.
I love that name too. David Treering is I believe the coordinator of that laboratory. And I think, and again, I'm speaking from memory. He is one of our students, by the way. I'll put in a little plug for that. But I think this lab started in affiliation with anthropology and sociology. I believe because there maybe is a reduced size geography program or maybe no geography program here at Loyola, which is unfortunate, but
little dig there. Okay, Loyola.
That's okay.
No geography program.
Well, we think that just as people write their own histories, they should be able to write their own geographies, so that they're able to tell their own stories and do it through through mapping and through other ways of representing things in space as well as in time.
It sounds like a really fantastic area. You're listening to Live from the Heartland. I'm Lisa Smith, and I've been talking to Professor Patrick McHaffie about the program at DePaul University that incorporates GPS in mapping processes in new and fascinating ways. Thank you very much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank
and hopefully
you,
maybe someday you can come back and tell me about some of the other programs that you're going to be involved in at DePaul. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll be talking to Professor Kenneth Saltman, also from DePaul. This seems like an ominous trend. DePaul's University Department of Educational Studies. But in the meantime, we're going to take a short musical break. Stay tuned.